permission of the body, we take this privilege speeches up. I ask that we recognize, Mr. President, our Deputy Majority Leader, Senator JV Ejercito, to deliver his speech.
Our distinguished colleague from San Juan and the Republic of the Philippines, our dear seatmate, my dear friend, Senator JV Ejercito, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kagalang-galang na Pangulo, makasamahan sa Senado at mga kababayan, isang mapagpalayang araw po sa ating lahat. Sa aking pag-iikot, gamit ang aking bisikleta o motor, madalas kong nasasaksihan ang sitwasyon ng ating mga kababayan sa lansangan. Sila ay mga estudyante, mga manggagawa na papasok sa kanilang mga trabaho. Sila ay mga commuter. Araw-araw silang nakipagsapalaran, matiyagang naghihintay at nag-aabang ng masasakyang jeep, bus o MRT. Ito na ba ang new normal sa ating mga publikong transportasyon? Ginoong Pangulo, ako'y tumitindig ngayong araw bilang pakisa sa ating mga kababayang commuter sa panawagang magkaroon ng ligtas at maayos sa pampublikong transportasyon. Ang pagsasaayos ng ating mass transport system ang magbibigay kalutasan sa matagal na dating suliranin sa traffic. Mababawasan ang mga pribadong sasakyan sa ating mga lansangan. Bibilis hindi lamang ang daloy ng trapiko kundi ang pag-usad ng ating ekonomiya. Naniniwala ako na ang pagpapalakas at papaunlad ng ating modernong transportasyon ang magsisilbing susi sa pagbubukas ng mas maraming oportunidad para sa atin at sa ating mga kababayan. Mr. President, one of the reasons also why we are lagging behind our ASEAN neighbors in terms of foreign direct investments is because of two factors: weak infrastructure and what you have discussed, Mr. President, yesterday, is the high cost of electricity. And this we have to address and prioritize. Nakikisa rin ako ang inyong lingkod sa ating mga kasama sa sektor ng agrikultura sa hangarin nila magkaroon ng abot-kayang pamamaraan upang maihatid ang kanilang mga ani sa merkado. Kung epesyente ang pagbiyahe ng mga produkto, mas mabilis itong maipapasa sa mga mamimili sa mas mababang halaga. Kapansin-pansin na sa iba't ibang maunlad na bansa, pinakamasiglang komersyo sa mga terminal at mga istasyon ng tren. Mr. President, let us adopt a policy of moving more people instead of moving more cars. Kung niyo pong makikita sa ating slide, yan po, kung nakikita ninyo, kapag kotse po at panay sasakyan ang nasa lansangan, iilang tao lamang para maigalaw, no? Para makalipat ang ibang tao ay napakaraming sasakyan. Ang kombinasyon nga, kung isang tren, no, na 1,000 passengers ang capacity, ay katumbas nito ay 15 buses or anywhere from 250 to 1,000 cars, lalo na kung nag-iisa lamang ang nakasakay sa kotse. So, yan po, what does it take to move 1,000 people? It's one train or 250 cars or 15 buses. At ito ay rin sa mga advokasya nila Senator Pia, Senator Lawrence, Senator Risa tungkol sa carbon footprint. No? Kung meron tayong trend, kung yung makikita, ay yun lang din po ang isang makina compared to 250 running or of combustion engines that are running. Kapag mabagal ang daloy ng traffic, bumabagal din ang daloy ng ekonomiya. Ayon sa huling report ng Japan International Cooperation Agency o JICA, 3.5 billion na halaga ng ang nawawala sa traffic kada araw. Maaari pa itong umabot hanggang 5.4 billion kada araw sa taong 2035 kung hindi natin tayo makapagbigay ng agaran at mapangmatagalang solusyon. Sa bagong ulat ng Numbeo Traffic Index 2022, nasa ika-12 pwesto sa pinakamatraffic na lugar sa buong mundo ang Maynila. At nangunguna naman sa lahat ng bansa sa Southeast Asia. Ayon naman sa ulat ng TomTom Traffic Index, nasa pang-18 pwesto ang Metro Manila sa 404 o 404 na syudad sa 58 na mga bansa sa buong mundo na may pinakamabigat na daloy ng traffic. Mr. President, dahil dito ay ganoon kalayo ang narating ng ating railway system, hindi rin tuluyang makaarangkada ang ating ekonomiya. In the latest available Global Competitive Report, we rank 102nd out of 141 countries with a score of 41.5 out of 100 in terms of our traffic infrastructure. Among the Asian countries, the Philippines received the lowest rated railway service with a score of 2.4, ranking 86 out of 101 countries globally. Meanwhile, on the ground, this means long lines in terminals, congested roads. The Filipino commuters suffer the consequences of an efficient transport system. In terms of regional accomplishment, the Philippines continue to lag behind its ASEAN neighbors in its share of foreign direct investments. While numerous factors of FDI, this data reflects a global competitiveness and means that foreign investors continue to shy away from investing in our country. In a span of 10 years, from 2010 to 2015, the Philippines ranked 6th among ASEAN countries in terms of foreign direct investments, trailing behind Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, and now Vietnam. From 2016 to 2020, the Philippines ranked far fourth as it secured only 8,740 million compared to Vietnam, which ranked third with $14.8 million foreign direct investment. Fortunately, FDI is just one of the most immediate issues we need to address. Dati po, Ginoong Pangulo, ang Pilipinas ay lagi nasa top 5 ng ASEAN. Pero ngayon ay naunahan na rin po tayo ng Vietnam. Mr. President, ang aking matagal ng panukalan ay ang pagpapatibay sa ating railway system, itong magiging hudyat sa tuloy-tuloy na kaunlaran at magsisilbing sandigan ng ating ekonomiya. Hindi may kakailan na ang mababang kalidad ng infrastruktura sa bansa, katulad ng railway system, ay dahil sa mababa ring paglaan ng pondo para rito. Sa panahon ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, nagkaroon tayo ng pag-asa dahil sa dihamak na mas mataas sa public infrastructure spending sa ilalim ng kanyang Build program, kung saan nag-target na maglaan ng 8 trillion para sa infrastruktura. From 2001 onwards, the average spending for public infrastructure is a meager 2.68% of the gross domestic product. Towards the end of the past administration, it surged to a record high 1.12 trillion or equivalent to 5.8% of the GDP. The ideal spending, Mr. President, is supposedly 5 to 8% of the gross domestic product. But our country has been only allotting 2% of our gross domestic product for our infrastructure development. The Build program was expected to bring the country to the golden age of Philippine infrastructures with new roads, railways, and other flagship projects in the pipeline. In the railway sector, the ongoing railway projects of the Department of Transportation include the Light Rail Transit or LRT-1 extension, Cavite extension, Baclaran to Bacoor, MRT-7 that goes to San Jose del Monte and Quezon City, Metro Manila Subway Project, the North-South Commuter Railway, which includes PNR Clark Phase 1 to Tuban to Malolos and PNR Clark Phase 2, Malolos to Clark, PNR Calamba, Solis to Calamba, and PNR Bicol for the South Long Haul. The other projects in the pipeline are the Mindanao Railway Network Phase 1 that will link Tagum, Davao del Norte, Davao City and Digos, Davao del Sur, LRT-2 West Extension Project, the MRT-4 project, and the Subic-Clark Railway Project. Mr. President, for the Visayas region, we vow to advocate the rehabilitation of the Panay and Cebu railways. We expect that these will bring massive development in the region and stimulate economic growth in the countrysides. We are confident that these will be included in the pipeline and will be prioritized with the latest pronouncement of President Bongbong Marcos. Tayo po ay nagtitiwala na ang proyektong ito ay may pagpapatuloy, may sasakatuparan at mapapakinabangan ng ating makababayan sa mga susunod na taon. Kaakibat nito ay ang ating pangako na patuloy ang pagsuporta upang masiguro na mapondohan ang iba't ibang proyekto sa patuloy na pagsasaayos ng transportasyon sa bansa. A developed country is not a place where the poor have cars. It's where the rich ride the public transportation. Mr. President, ito marahil ang pinakasimpleng definisyon ng kaunlaran. Ito ay sinabi ni Gustavo Petro na dating mayor ng Bogota at ngayon presidente na ng Colombia. Ang pagsusulong natin na magkaroon ng moderno, konektado, ligtas, epesyente at makakalikasang railway system ay nagsimula sa ating pag-aaral at paniniwala na ito ay maghahatid ng malawakang kaunlaran. Katulad ng ating mga maunlad na karatig bansa sa buong mundo, naging mahalagang parte ang railway system sa paglago ng kanilang ekonomiya. In fact, Mr. President, I had the opportunity to attend the Sustainable Urban Transport Planning and Management seminar in Singapore, hosted by the Land Transport Authority Academy. At doon po ay, this was sometime in 2015. So, and I had the opportunity to talk to the Minister of Transport of Singapore at the time. Ang sabi nga niya sa akin, we took a risk by investing heavily on infrastructure. We were not even sure if it's going to work at that time. But we are glad that we took that risk. Mr. President, naging solusyon ng pagkakaroon ng maayos na railway system sa pagresolba ng kanilang problema sa transportasyon at paglago ng kanilang ekonomiya. Di ba't pangarap din natin ang isang bansa kung saan maayos na nakahanap buhay ang mamamayan at may magandang quality of life dahil epesyente ang pampublikong transportasyon. Nagnanais tayo ng isang bansa kung saan maunlad ang sektor ng agrikultura, mura ang produksyon at ang presyo ng mga bilihin dahil konektado at ang mga sakahan sa merkado. Ito ay isang bansa na kung saan umiiral ng kapayapaan at kaunlaran dahil abot kamay ng bawat Pilipino ang oportunidad. Mr. President, malayo-layo na rin ang narating ng advocacy ito. Una tayong naniwala rito simula nung makita natin ito. Ako'y naging saksi nung panahon na aking ama, nung siya'y presidente, na kung saan nasa drawing board na ang North Rail at South Rail at ang New Clark International Airport na dapat na sanang isagawa. Ito'y 2 dekada nang nakalipas at puspusan na pagsasalita natin tungkol dito simula nung ako'y maging member ng Kongreso in 2010 at ng Senado noong 2013. Noong 17th Congress, ibinuhos natin ang ating suporta sa pagdepensa at pagpasa ng Department of Transportation budget kung saan nakatulong tayo sa mapondohan ang ilang railway projects katulad ng LRT 1 Cavite Extension, LRT Line North Extension, LRT Line 2 West Extension, LRT East Extension, Metro Manila Subway Project Phase 1, North-South Commuter Railway Project, yung Malolos to Tutuban, North-South Railway Project Phase 2, Tutuban to Matnog at ang Mindanao Railway System. Mr. President, ako po ay naging parte rin ng ilang high caliber meetings nung napunta po, nung naikwento ko nung namatay po si Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And I again reiterate that we owe so much to this person, no? Because naging saksi po ako sa dinner meetings at sa mga high-powered meetings with transport officials at doon sa dinner na kung saan inanunsyo po ni Prime Minister Abe that Japan will undertake the North-South Commuter Line and the Manila Subway System Project. Kaya po nagpapasalamat tayo sa Japan, lalong-lalo na kay Prime Minister Abe, sa kanilang transport officials at sa JICA na sila po ang gumawa ng North-South Commuter Line at Manila Subway System. Sana po ang Mindanao Railway System at iba pa at yung South Line, no, papunta pong Bicol ay maisunod na rin po natin. Full speed ahead. Yan po ang marching order ni President BBM sa kanyang katatapos lamang na State of the Nation address. Ako'y nabuhay ng loob dahil ang aking advokasya ay isa sa mga nabanggit na prioridad ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Malinaw ang kanyang naging mensahe para sa pagsasaayos ng sektor ng transportasyon. Full speed ahead. President Marcos' marching order to the Department of Transportation means two things. First, building on the accomplishment of the previous administration to keep the momentum. And second, expanding the scope of the present administration's infrastructure program to place transportation infrastructure at the center of development of other sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and general economic activity. The statement of President during the SONA serves as a map in laying the tracks and let us make the railway system and infrastructure the backbone of our economy. Bukod sa benepisyo nito sa ating kababayan at sa kalikasan, ito rin ay solusyon sa mababang kumpiyansa ng mga foreign investors upang mamuhunan dito sa ating bansa. We have always dreamt of making the railway stations as economic hubs where business districts, industrial estates, commercial areas, and agricultural terminals or food terminals are present and booming. And likewise, Mr. President, this will surely spread out the development from Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao to the far-flung areas of the country. Kung nakikita ninyo sa illustration, ang bawat railway station sa bawat probinsya ay may pagkakataon na tayo magtayo ng mga industrial estates, commercial areas, business parks, and food terminals. Kumbaga magkakaroon tayo ng economic hubs, growth development areas sa bawat probinsya at hindi na kinakailangan magsiksikan pa ang lahat sa Metro Manila, sa Cebu at Davao dahil dito lamang ang oportunidad. Through the railway system, we will now be able to spread out the development, create jobs and opportunities in the different provinces, Mr. President. Kapag ito'y nasa isa katuparan, magkakaroon ng Luzon Growth Triangle na magpapasigla sa takbo ng ekonomiya at aalalay sa tuloy-tuloy na kaunlaran sa rehiyon. Ang Growth Triangle nito ay magkokonekta sa Subic, Manila at Batangas ports. Ito ay hindi lamang magdadala ng kaunlaran sa rehiyon, kundi kasigla na rin ang ekonomiya sa buong Pilipinas dahil sa mga posibleng malilikang mga trabaho at oportunidad. The Growth Triangle shall include the full development of Clark International Airport, a modern railway system, and vital road networks to ensure seamless delivery of goods, services, and people. Luzon should evolve into an investment magnet that would attract both foreign and local investors. Lubos din ako naniniwala ng maayos na railway system ay susi sa kayusan at pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa Mindanao. Panahon na upang matapos ang kaliwat-kanang kaguluhan at karahasan na siyang nagpapahirap sa ating mga kababayan. Dapat matigil na ang insurgency sa eastern side, ang secessionist at rebellion sa western and central Mindanao. Gagawin po natin pag kumalat na po ang development o magkaroon ng oportunidad through the railway system, ay tingin ko ito'y magdadala ng oportunidad at trabaho doon sa mga lugar na salat sa kaunlaran. Sa pamamagitan ng Mindanao Railway Network, na magkokonekta sa iba't ibang probinsya sa Mindanao, masusolusyon na rin natin ang kakulungan sa oportunidad sa iba't ibang rehiyon na siyang pangunahing sanhi ng mga pag-aklas at rebelyon. Ang railway system ang siyang maghatid ng trabaho, kabuhayan at mismong kapayapaan sa Mindanao. Dahil sa oportunidad na dala ng railway system, magre-resolba na natin ang isa sa mga sinasabing pangunahing dahilan ng pagtanga ng armas ng ilan sa ating mga kababayan, ang kahirapan at kagutuman. The Mindanao Railway will pave the way to lasting peace in Mindanao. Pati na rin sa ibang parte ng bansa, tiyak ang pangako ng kaunlaran. Ang Bicol Region ay sagana sa malikas na kayamanan at ganda ng tanawin, ngunit nananatiling isa sa pinakamayat na rehiyon sa bansa. Bukod sa sakunang pangkalikasan, nagiging hadlang din sa paglanong ekonomiya ng rehiyon ang sira-sirang mga daan at kawalang alternatibong paraan upang maibiyaya ang kanilang kalakal. At isa na rin po ang distansya. Dahil malayo po ang Bicol, it became isolated. Sa pamamagitan ng PNR South Long Haul, mas lalawak ang oportunidad sa pag-unlad sa Bicol region. Mr. President, in terms of the environmental impact and sustainability, rail is considered as one of the most energy-efficient and least carbon-intensive transport modes. This is according to the International Agency report in 2021. The said report provides that on average, rail requires 12 times less energy and emits 7 to 11 times less greenhouse gas emissions per passenger to kilometer traveled than private vehicles and airplanes, making it the most efficient mode of motorized passenger transport. Aside from shipping, freight rail is the most energy efficient and least carbon intensive way to transport goods. Mr. President, colleagues, railway is the only way to go. It is efficient, accessible, safe, and environment-friendly. Our investment now for the development of our railways will live on and benefit the generations after us. The railway system could become the backbone of our economy. Mr. President, I have filed several legislative measures to support this advocacy. First is Senate Resolution number 64, which seeks to inquire on the status of implementation of various government railway projects with the end in view of crafting measures that shall fast-track their construction and prevent further delay of their completion. This is a housekeeping measure which shall keep this august body abreast of the latest information about the railway projects. It is imperative that we are informed in order for us to also know how we can further help the administration in terms of implementation and financing. The first bill that I have filed during the opening of this Congress is Senate Bill number 158, for the formulation and institutionalization of a comprehensive infrastructure development master plan. This shall serve as the blueprint for the different departments of the government in the construction, upgrading, and improvement of the infrastructure projects all over the country for the next 50 to 100 years. Kahit po sino ang umpong Pangulo, Mr. President, ito na po ang magsisilbing blueprint para sa infrastructure at transport development para po tuloy-tuloy ang ating infra development. I also filed Senate Bill number 165 which shall institutionalize the establishment of agri-food terminals and trading centers in every province in the country. The agri-food terminals which serve as a place where local farmers can sell their produce and goods directly to the wholesalers. We envision that in the future, they shall be part of the economic hubs in every railway station. Ang panukalang batas na ito ay ating inihain bago pa ang SONA ni Pangulong Marcos kung saan pinahayag niya ang pagbibigay prioridad sa pagpapasigla ng agrikultura. I also commit my unwavering support to the Department of Transportation's mission to implement the key infrastructure programs of this administration. Basta't para sa implementasyon ng railway projects at transportasyon at para sa pangkalatang kaunlaran, ako po ay handang magsulong at magdepensa muli nito sa Senado. To conclude, Mr. President, honorable members of this august chamber, we are now living in a time where the rest of the world is on a race of developing not only the best high-speed rail, but the first fully electrified bullet train and the hydrogen fuel cell hybrid train while we are still laying the tracks. Nevertheless, I have never doubted our compassion for our people, our commitment to bring growth and development in the country. I am full of hope that one day the railway system can indeed become the backbone of our country. On a lighter note, Mr. President, allow me to share my personal project as a reflection of my dear commitment to realize this dream of having a working railway system in the country. Kahit po nasa bahay ko ay gawa na ako ng railway system. Naging panaginip ko na po mula noon. Kaya sana po ngayon ay maging katotohanan na. Diyan po nakikita natin yung benepisyo niyan, how we can have the city clear, yung mas maluwag ang kalsada dahil nasa railway lahat, at yung mga tao ay madali ring nakakapasok. So talagang isinabuhay at nandun na po sa aking bahay ang ating pong railway system. At sana po ay ito'y maging isang katotohanan na. Mr. President, magtulungan tayo upang madagdagan ang 161 kilometro na gumaganang railway sa bansa. Magsiyasa tayo at ating alamin ang estado ng mga railway projects upang masolusyonan ang backlogs sa implementasyon ng mga ito. At suportahan natin ang programa na nabanggit ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos upang maisakatuparan na ang mga plano para sa transportasyon. The cost to build the railway system will be expensive, no doubt, but the returns to the economy will be enormous. Let us lead our kababayans to a future where our railway system is modern, safe, accessible, efficient, and environment-friendly. Let us help them take back the quality of life that they have lost from battling everyday traffic and lack of means to travel. Let us invest in the country's developing sectors to the immense benefits of a reliable railway system. Let us give peace a chance through equal distribution of opportunities across the country. Let us work on these visions now. Sa ating pagtutulungan, nakakatiyak akong hindi madidiskaril ang ating mga pangarap na maginhawang buhay para sa lahat ng Pilipino. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Maraming salamat sa ating kapatid, the gentleman from San Juan, Senator JV Ejercito, who has championed public transport in these halls of Congress for the last several years.
Yes, Mr. President, we surely missed our seatmate, and obviously he missed the Senate, Mr.
Yes.
President. So we congratulate our country and people for
May I make a
bringing him
request though, that we be also given a tour of this his train sets at home sa bahay.
That is his passion. Mr. President, this juncture, the distinguished lady from the city of Taguig and Pateros would like to ask some questions. I move that she be recognized, Mr. President.
We'd like to recognize the distinguished colleague from
Senator
Taguig and
Pia
Pateros, no other than our Honorable Senator Pia Cayetano. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the permission of the gentleman from San Juan, they are not really questions at this point, more of commendations, which he deserves. If I may proceed and commend his honor. Mr. President, I have many things in common with the gentleman from San Juan. We are both bikers, not big bike. The one that you need to exert effort to move forward, road bike and mountain bike. And I thought his speech at first was going to be about how he got fitter by biking. So I also congratulate you for that, visiting the provinces, trying out the different delicacies and giving us some, and we await more. But let me go also to the meat of his presentation, well, his privileged speech, which is basically on sustainable transportation. Over 10 years ago, I filed a sustainable transportation bill, and by this time, there's at least maybe a third of the members of Senate who have filed, if not an identical, a similar bill. I did this with Tony Oposa, whose daughter was here as a TOYM awardee, and he also is a TOYM awardee. This bill was referred to the Committee on Sustainable Development, which I chair. So I would be happy, Your Honor, with, and of course, with it depends on the Rules Committee and where His Honor, the gentleman, would like it to be referred. But insofar as sustainability is concerned, sustainable transportation, of course, our chairman of the Committee on Transportation is also here. But insofar as sustainability is concerned, I am prepared to call a hearing. It will be my first hearing after the organizational meeting on sustainable transportation. And I don't think the gentleman included it in his speech, but he also filed a similar bill to my bill, which is the subject of a committee report which passed on third reading in the Senate, the Safe Pathways. So those will already be heard by this committee, Your Honor. And anything that has to do with sustainability, I will be happy to move it forward. No, I won't encroach on the other issues like mga timelines ng mga projects, but in terms of looking into the future, that is something that our committee is very committed to look into. So I was very impressed with His Honor's bill on the master plan, because really we want to, whatever we do today should be something that prepares our next generation, yung mga apo na natin, yung mga great-grandchildren natin, that they will be able to use this. Hindi parang kotse na kailangan palitan. Sabi nga, after 3 years palit. Ako naman di mo nang papalit after 3 years. Pero, you know, like the train systems that we see in Europe and in other countries, no, na dekada buhay pa. I'm just saying this in one go, then we'll ask the gentleman for any quick response he'd like to give. So I'm a big believer of the railway system. And let me end by saying I also have a toy train collection. Probably not as elaborate and high-tech as His Honor, but I actually used to be the distributor of Thomas the Tank. So cute. Cute, yes. In my early days as a lawyer, I was a entrepreneur as well. And I got the distributorship of Thomas the Tank, the wooden tanks. The wooden version. So we even had what do you call this? A table where you move it around. So yeah, and anyway, my children have had many happy hours, and I used to own a toy store, and that was a hit because I put the demo trains there, and the kids would just come and play with it. Minsan may bumibili, minsan wala, pero at least happy yung mga bata. So we're also the same on that. And that's all I need to say. I am a supporter. I'm a believer. Thank you. I'm so happy you're back in the Senate to discuss these things on the floor. I will always support these measures.
Thank you, Senator Pia. And likewise, I'm pushing for this also in line with your advocacy of lessening our carbon footprint. I think this will really help in lessening the an efficient railway system will definitely help lessen the carbon footprint and lessen the greenhouse effect in that we are suffering right now. That is, it's also very urgent because of what's happening in the world right now. Probably if you watch the news right on CNN, there's a heat wave in Europe, flooding in Middle East and the United States. So I think this it's a clear and present danger that we really have to act right now. And I think an efficient mass railway transit can really reduce the carbon footprint, because as you can see in this graphic, one train is equal to 15 buses or 250 to 1,000 cars. So just imagine the fuel combustion engine that is running from all of these cars and buses against one engine from the railway system. So I think this will help a lot in your advocacy, Your Honor. So I am also glad that we're on the same page as far as sustainable transportation is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I just add, when His Honor mentioned that this would address this would be a partial solution to climate change issues. Just today, and I was trying to look it up now as His Honor was speaking, I read that there is now evidence that shows that climate change directly affects our health, not just because of the pollution, which is what we kind of think of when we think of when we think of outdated transportation, non-sustainable transportation. We know that the air pollution that they cause, no, has a direct effect on health, like lung health. No, they say nga that the respiratory ailments in cities is so high because of the pollution caused by cars. So again, that's something that the train system can address. But I'm referring to ailments, including the rise in ailments like malaria, other infectious diseases, Your Honor, caused by bacteria or viruses. They said that it's been hundreds of years ago, people would associate weather with health. But now it is proven that climate change is affecting how viruses and bacteria affect us, how they have made certain illnesses come back with a vengeance. So I just wanted to mention this because it just shows how everything is interrelated, how our choice of transportation, how our business decisions would affect our health ultimately. And I know that that is also His Honor's advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, next on the list is the distinguished gentleman from Cavite, Senator Bong Revilla. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Revilla from the great province of Cavite is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a short manifestation to echo the concerns raised by the good senator from San Juan. They say that transportation is the glue of our daily lives. We depend so much on transportation sa pagpasok sa trabaho, sa eskwelahan, sa pagpunta sa ospital o sa pagbili ng merkado. We also rely on dependable transport system to move goods. Ang mga pagkain sa mesa, gamot sa ospital, gamit sa araw-araw na buhay ay nakasalalay din dito, Mr. President. The convenience of having a good transport system is even more amplified when it fails. Ito ang araw na pasan ng ating mga kababayan na walang magawa kung hindi pagtiyagaan kung anong meron. Siksikan, balyan, at traffic. Meron nga po tayong kasabihan, Mr. President, kung maikli ang kumot, sanay naman daw ang Pilipinong mamaluktot. No? So, but as our colleague from San Juan has said, we must demand more, especially when we know that so much more can be given. Filipino people deserve better. We must intensify our efforts to strengthen our railway system. Up to this day, an efficient and reliable railway system is essential to growth and progress. It has always been the backbone of the best transport systems across the world. Marapat lamang na kalampagin natin mga ahensya upang mabigyan naman natin ng lunas ang problemang ito, no? Kaya panahon na, let us provide them with a better and accessible transport system, Mr. President. On that note, meron po akong may ilang katanungan with the permission of the gentleman from San Juan.
Certainly, to the gentleman from Cavite, it will be an honor.
Yes, while we are still laying tracks for the development of our railway system, what could be our short-term solution or proposal to lessen the burden of the Filipinos in light of this mass transport crisis? Alam niyo po, Mr. President, nung ako'y gobernador pa, itong LRT1 na to from Manila to Cavite, LRT extension na yan, noon pa pinograma yan. At ngayon pa lang parating sa lalawigan ng Cavite. And up to this point in time, palagi kong binabanggit yan, na bakit ang bagal. So, more than 20 years, to be exact, maybe 25 years now, So, paano po natin mapapabilis itong problema nito? Itong sa ating railway system na ito, Ginoong Pangulo.
Thank you, gentleman from Cavite. Actually, totoo po yung sinasabi nyo, no? Na nakakainip na minsan. Buti na banggit nyo no, kayo, Governor, ay sinimula na dapat yung LRT, one extension. At ngayon pa lamang, after more than 20 years, no? Ngayon pa lamang umuusad at mukhang sana umabot na ng Cavite at the soonest possible time.
Nasa Parañaque na.
Nasa Parañaque na. So, hopefully, umabot na rin doon sa ilang taon. Pero habang hinaantay pa natin, marami pa. Yung North-South Commuter Line, ay nakita ko ngayon nang nadaan ng SCTEX, bandang nasa Clark na po ang development. Yung pong Manila Subway System, sisimulan pa lang. Tapos yung South Long Haul, ay sisimulan pa rin po kasi may problema po yung China na dapat gagawa. Ay mukhang nagkaroon pa ng problema, so medyo matatagalan pa ito. Sana nga po ay, ako personally, sana po Japan na lang gumawa dahil mas tinutuloy. Dahil yung North-South Commuter Line, ay Japan po ang gumagawa at yung Manila Subway System. Anyway, siguro doon po sa katanungan ninyo kung ano ang pwede natin gawin habang inaantay natin na matapos ang mga matatagal, itong mga malalaking proyekto tungkol sa railways. By now, meron po tayong pinasa sa Senado ngayon, sa Kongreso, yung telecommuting. We can probably have a 4-day work week arrangement, yung Telecommuting Act for alternative work management na alam ko pinasa ng ating majority leader. So para hindi na para at least yung 4-day work week ay makabawas ng 1 week, no? At least sa pagbiyahe. Pangalawa ay doon sa pagtulong naman sa mga negosyo ngayon, meron po tayong bill ngayon. Although ngayon ay napapakinabangan na natin, we even consider them as the heroes of the pandemic, yung pang mga motorcycle, no? Couriers and motorcycle taxis. Nag-file po tayo ng bill para magkaroon sila ng basis. Hopefully, it will fall under our chairperson of public services incidentally here, yung pong Public Utility Motorcycle as Public Utility Vehicles Act. So sana po ay they are still operating pero on lamang to, no? On provisional authority to operate. So sana dapat magkaroon na ng basis para I think they deserve it kasi naman nung pandemya nakita natin kung gaano ka-importante at nakatulong ito sa ekonomiya at sa mga negosyo habang naka-lockdown po. And last but not the least, as an avid biker, cyclist myself, tulad ni SNP Cayetano, probably dito sa Metro Manila, no, ay kaya naman magbisikleta, pwede siguro natin encourage, probably improve the bike lanes, para yung ma-encourage natin magbisikleta yung mga kaya naman, bike to work. And last but not the least, incidentally, Your Honor, we also placed 3.5 billion in 2017 or 2018 budget para po makabili muna ang PNR ng mga bagong bagon. No? We have new 9 train sets ang PNR. Kung nakikita nyo po yung mga bagong train sets ng PNR, ito po yung ginagamit na. And nabuksan na rin po yung Valenzuela, hanggang Makati, hopefully hanggang umabot naman ng Calamba. So sa ngayon ay nagagamit ito. It lessened, Your Honor, it lessened the travel time from Valenzuela to Makati in only 37 minutes. Pag nagkotse ka without using the Skyway, that will probably take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So yung mga bagong PNR trains ay pwedeng gamitin muna habang inaantay natin yung mga modern railway system. Yan po, Madam President.
Thank you for the information, Mr. President. Aki pong binabate ang ating kaibigan, Ginoong taga San Juan, at sa kanyang napakagandang privilege speech na ito at para tayo imulat sa mga karapat-dapat nating tugunan o aksyonan. Kaya, Mr. President, I congratulate Senator Ejercito for this privilege speech. And sana po ma-aksyonan, mapabilis itong MRT, itong ating railway system sa ating bansa. Alam kong kailangan ng tulong pa rin ng private sector, no? At hindi kakayanin ng ating gobyerno nito. Pero daming kailangang umaksyon dito. Again, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bong.
Thank you, Senator Revilla. Madam President, next on the list is the chairperson of the Committee on Public Services, no other than Senator Grace Poe. I move that she be recognized.
Senator Grace Poe is recognized, and we acknowledge the interpellations of Senator Bong Revilla and congratulate once again the sponsor of the privileged speech, Senator JV Ejercito. And just for the record, this representation wishes to associate herself with the ideals, vision, and the direction as stated in the privileged speech of Senator Ejercito. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I agree that a good railway system is the way to go. And I would like to thank and commend my colleague and the Vice Chairperson, the very knowledgeable Vice Chairperson of the Committee on Public Services, particularly the transport sector. So thank you for the privileged speech to our good colleague from San Juan. I just have a few questions. And, you know, we have 3 big ticket railway projects, but there's still no funding for it. The Subic-Clark Railway, PNR South Long Haul, and the Mindanao Railway. As I understand, initially, these projects were supposed to be funded by China Exim Bank, if I'm not mistaken. And since it did not materialize, so it did not happen, the deadline was supposed to be May 31, 2022, the loan applications was automatically withdrawn. But my question isn't even that, what happened there, but more like, why should we choose China Exim Bank when they were supposedly going to charge us 3% interest rate, which is considerably higher than 0.01% rate offered by Japan?
Yes, Madam President, Your Honor, you're correct. I would rather have Japan do it. First of all, it's more reliable. I would think most of us here would probably prefer Japanese railways and trust Japanese railways. And second, Japan through the JICA and ADB has been extending friendlier terms for the country. But going to your query, why PNR South Long Haul and the Mindanao railway system went to China, that is I have to say personally that I would rather have Japan, but hopefully since Exim Bank and China seems to backed out of this, we're hoping, that's why we filed the resolution for an audit of the whole of all the railway projects, so that we can probably we can already move forward and hopefully renegotiate or look for other sources. Personally, Madam Chair of my chair of the Public Services Committee, I'm hoping that Japan would also undertake the South Link or the South Rail and other railway projects because of interoperability, para po isa na lang din yung technicians, yung technology. But probably in the last, I have to admit, in the last administration, I think China was, kumbaga hinati nila. Merong Japan, merong China. But I think, personally, I would prefer that Japan do all para nga po sa interoperability and practicality.
Yep. Madam President, actually, that is also my concern. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that this project did not push through. And maybe just out of courtesy, President Marcos said, maybe we should look at the terms and perhaps renegotiate. But the good gentleman from San Juan is correct. When it comes to reliability, we had to ask Sumitomo to come back to rescue and salvage our MRT. When we ordered from Dalian, that the Dalian trains that arrived were not even to the exacting standards of what was needed. That's why we were actually a whole 6 years late. Because from the time of the last administration, 2 administrations passed. They had to repair and they had to rehabilitate the brand new trains coming from China. So that in itself, Mr. President, should be a red flag, should raise concern. I would trust a partner that has delivered already, time and again. Pag may problema tayo, biglang tatakbo tayo sa Japan kasi hindi maayos ng ano. So bakit hindi na lang ganun? So tama, dapat may interoperability. Ngayon,
If I may add,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Madam President, meron akong bad record yung China because of the North Link, yung North Rail, hindi po natuloy yun. Yung maalala, under the Arroyo administration, sinimulan panay poste lamang, no? Umabot hanggang Bulacan, pero hindi rin nila tinuloy. Ang sabi nga sa amin nung Japan, nung nandun kami, when I was in one of the President Duterte's trip, we in Japan, we decide slower, mas matagal kami, but at least we are sure when we do a project, we will complete it.
kahit yung Kaliwa Dam, di ba? Di ba sila rin yata yung nandun? So, anyway, that's quite a concern. Now, do we know who will be in charge of the subway project?
For, I think Cesar Chavez was reappointed as a USEC for railways.
No, but which company won the, what is it called? The Mega Manila Subway?
For a while.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, it's Mega Wide. Mega Wide is one of the contractors. But, you know, Mega Wide has delivered, ha?
Yeah, yung Clark International Airport is
Oh.
mega wide.
And also the Cebu International Airport.
Airport.
So I feel that that's kind of reassuring in a way, but I think we have to really look into who will be the implementers of this project. It is not just about the construction of railways at whatever cost. We need to bridge our regions in a way that will not unnecessarily burden the taxpayers. And also, we recently passed the Public Service Act, so allowing investments in the railway sector is now allowed, which hopefully will give us more options and bidders that would want to come in. Let us use this to mitigate the fiscal burdens of new trains. I just want to point it out for our colleagues here. Remember, China is going to charge us 3%, whereas Japan will only charge us 0.01%. It's clear as day. Di ba? When it comes to competence, deliveries of what projects they had in the past, as well as the amount of interest that we're going to pay, I think the choice should have been very clear. So the gentleman from San Juan is correct. We really have to focus on this before they sign another contract that might be disadvantageous to us. So, Mr. President,
Likewise, I'd just like to add for the information, no? Of the total 9 billion worth of projects of China that they committed for ODA, only 600 million was finalized, according to the OTR.
how much was the total in
9 billion yung commitment po nila,
Ngayon, 600.
600 million lang kanila pong na-finalize.
Okay, so that's clearly not something that we can be confident about if we ask them. I feel that this administration should take advantage of this fresh start because they have just a little less than 6 years to go. So they can finish all of this if they get the right,
Right players. And,
yes, the right, I guess, companies
company.
or countries to help us do the project. I think that another issue that you raised was the transport network sector. There's an existing DOTR order which puts the transport network vehicle companies like Grab and motorcycles for hire under LTFRB. But I think that we should really look into this. If the LTFRB is in over its head, regulating these other transport network vehicle services, as it is now with the jeeps, they can't even complete the routes. Until now, wala pa rin masakyan, marami nating mga kababayan kasi hindi pa rin kompleto yung ruta na dapat ibigay kung kaninong prangkisa sa mga jeep, nagkakagulo pa rin. So maybe this is also something that we will focus on. But really, the rail network is so important, as the good gentleman from San Juan has marveled about the Singapore network and Japan, the Shinkansen and also the JR trains. They're operated by different companies, but it's seamless. Hindi gobyernong may-ari ng mga train system sa Japan. Private sector. Pero nagkakatugma-tugma ang schedule nila. Diba? So it's possible to have the private sector step in a PPP, have investors, as long as the main monitoring group is knowledgeable and is actually transparent. So, Mr. President, that's all I'd like to point out and also acknowledge from our very passionate and very involved Vice Chair, Subcommittee on Transportation of the Public Services Committee, that this is something that we really need to prioritize as quickly as possible so that the next 6 years of the President will be very fruitful in terms of the transport sector. Kasi the US, even now, they lack rail transport because of the strong lobby of the automobile industry, like Ford, Cadillac, Lincoln, Chevrolet. Kaya in Europe, marami silang rails kasi they don't rely on cars. But sa US, you'd think because they have 50 states, di ba? They'll have a better rail system. But they themselves have to upgrade and add more rail system. So that's all, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you also, Madam President. Thank you to our Chair of the Public Service, and looking forward already to working with you again and pushing for improvement of the transportation sector.
We thank Senator Poe, and next to interpolate, we recognize Deputy Minority Leader Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Salamat po, Madam President. Would the good gentleman from San Juan entertain siguro mga 3 tanong lamang po, Madam President, in support of and by way of follow-up sa kanilang privileged speech?
Certainly, to the gentle lady from Panay.
Salamat po, Madam President, good gentleman. Unang-una po, talagang naalala ko dun sa sinabi ng good gentleman from San Juan na oo nga no, panahon pa ni dating President Erap na nasa drawing board na yung North at South Rails, Subic-Clark Railway. So isang henerasyon na, Madam President, mula noon hanggang ngayon. Kaya't ina-appreciate ko talaga na naghain yung good gentleman ng proposed Senate Resolution number 64 tungkol sa status of the government implementation of the rail projects. Kaya in relation po doon, Madam President, good gentleman, gusto kong itanong kung may alam ba ang good gentleman na any baseline report, any progress report for all of these railway projects. Kasama na rin po siguro yung mas recent na Build China Rails, Madam President.
Yes, I have with me here the ongoing and the status, no? For example, North-South Commuter Railway System or the NSCR, Clark, Manila, and Calamba. Overall progress is 37.7%. Yung pong Malolos to Clark. Malolos to Tutuban is 55.64%. Manila to Calamba is 37.7% at the moment. Then the Metro Manila Subway Project, overall progress nakalagay dito sa report, 32.3%. No? In construction is only 2%. Procurement is 69.4%. right of way is 66.2%, design is 72.38%. So nasa 32% overall progress, pero sa construction side nasa 2% pa lang. For LRT Line 1 Cavite Extension, overall progress is 61.38%. At ang kanilang construction ay nasa 49% na, procurement 99%, right of way 75%. LRT Line 2 Extension, overall progress 99.76%. So operational po siya sa ngayon, no? Yung Santolon to Antipolo. MRT Line 3 Rehabilitation, MRT Line 7, ito po ay yung pong North Avenue going to San Jose del Monte. Overall progress is 64.58%, construction is 59.63%. Yung common station naman sa North Avenue, construction is 68.82%. Yung PNR South Long Haul, no? Mukhang ito po yung medyo na-discarril, no? Na supposedly China ODA po ito. Design 47.58%, right of way 13.75%, procurement 54.69%, construction 0% pa. So this has to be reviewed, no? Talagang dapat natin pag-aralan to. Gaya po nung pinoint out kanina ni Senator Grace po, yung pong percentage pa lamang, yung po sa interest rate, napakalayo, no? Nang binibigay ng Japan. And I personally, Your Honor, I would rather have Japan do the Pinar South Long Haul para po sa interoperability. At least pareho po yung technology with the North-South Commuter Line and hopefully in the future your North Long Haul Line. Doon po sa Mindanao Railway Project, Phase 1, yung Tagum, Davao, Digos, overall progress, ito po yung China rin, no? Overall progress is 14%. Ang nakalagay, design 40%, right of way 50%, procurement 4%, construction 0% pa, no? Medyo ano na to, medyo yung South Long Haul and Mindanao Railway Project are 0% up to now. Subic Clark Railway, also overall progress 36%, construction 0% pa rin po. So sa ngayon, yan pong these are all the status of the different railway projects at the moment.
Nako, Madam President, maraming salamat talaga sa good gentleman from San Juan for, in fact, taking the first steps to aid or to prompt the executive in presenting yung ganung pong klaseng status report. Sinimulan na ng good gentleman from San Juan yung pagsagot dun sa hinihingi nila sa resolution, Senate Resolution number 64, down to the brass tacks po, yung actual percentage of construction. Hindi lang yung mga preliminary steps, pero construction nitong 2 dekada ng sinimulang mga proyekto at kailangan ng ating bansa. Nakakabigla lang talaga makarinig ng range of construction from not just a measly but a non-existent 0% to, kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, ang pinakamataas na narinig kong percentage of construction ay 68%. So malayo pa po sa passing grade kahit natin nung mga estudyante tayo sa eskwelahan na 75% man lamang. Madam President, good gentleman from San Juan, kung maaari po kami makahingi ng kopya at least ng mga initial construction rates po na iyon bilang paghahanda rin po namin para lumahok sa napakahalagang pagdinig ng resolusyon na iyan. And just as a final point, Madam President, good gentleman, dun sa unang tanong ko, bilang baseline information, magkano na po ang ginastos? And dahil sa bilang resulta ng mga delays, ano po yung magiging escalation at final cost nitong mga proyektong ito, Madam President?
Madam President, Your Honor, I'm sorry we do not have the exact figure right now. That's why I filed a resolution for an audit. So hopefully with the hearing, with the scheduled hearing, if probably we can ask the railway officials for an update and probably the status, and probably can also ask the funding, no? How much has already been released at the moment, hopefully by that time.
Fair enough, Madam President, at salamat sa good gentleman from San Juan. Pangalawang tanong po, nakikiisa po ako dun sa vision ng good gentleman from San Juan, Madam President, na oo nga, ang railway system ay pwede talagang maging backbone ng ating ekonomiya. At ito rin ay dahil bilang ganong backbone, bilang ganyang spine, yung kanyang maikakabit na railway stations ay pwede talagang ma-design at ma-develop bilang mga economic hubs. In fact, Madam President, nung sinabi ng good gentleman from San Juan yung railway stations at economic hubs, naalala ko po yung isang konseptong pinopropose sa atin sa Kongreso ng NEDA the past several years tungkol sa spatial development o balanced regional development, kung saan sila rin, ang NEDA, nakikita nila na yung skeletal framework ng balanced regional or spatial development na iyan ay yung ating public transport system, lalong-lalo na po yung mga tren. Gusto kong tanungin, Madam President, sa good gentleman from San Juan, kung meron din silang reflections about yung ganyang magandang konsepto ng NEDA, ng spatial or balanced regional development na kumbaga nakasakay din or nakaangkas sa ating railway system.
Well, that is probably why I am really pushing for this, Your Honor, is because probably if you notice, no, dito po sa atin, ang concentration ng development is really Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao, probably some in Cagayan de Oro. And most of the people really go to Metro Manila dahil nandito oportunidad sa Cebu at sa Davao na nagsisiksikan dito. And I think through the only way we can really decongest Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao is we spread out the development. No? And I would think that the only way we can spread out the development is if we put the necessary infrastructure, and as you mentioned, each railway railway station can become an economic hub where we can have business districts, industrial estates, food terminals, and even housing. No, so I think that this will be the ideal model that we have on how we can really spread out the development all over the country. And probably, as I mentioned earlier, our minority leaders from Mindanao, the decades-long problem in Mindanao, nagkaroon tayong military solution, hindi rin nag-work. It's really the lack of opportunity. No? Marami sumasama sa insurgency, marami sumasama sa rebellion doon sa western and Central Mindanao because of hunger. Gutom po ang tao sa Mindanao. So hopefully, kaya nga nung nabasa ko yung percentage, yung progress na 0% pa, nakakalungkot, no? Because I think that the Mindanao railway system will even pave to lasting peace in Mindanao, because this will bring development to areas, no, that are least developed, na kung saan nagkakaroon ng insurgency sa eastern side and rebellion on the western and central side. So I think this will be the ideal structure that we will have, so that we will be able to spread out development and create jobs and opportunities in different parts of the country, not only in Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao.
Salamat po, Madam President. Nabanggit ng good gentleman from San Juan yung termino ulit na infrastructure. So, quick follow-up lang dun sa isang interesanteng best practices model na binanggit nila kanina. Sabi po ng good gentleman from San Juan, Singapore took a risk to invest in infrastructure. Kahit po in a capsule manner, Madam President, pwede po bang ibahagi ng good gentleman from San Juan, ano itong mga risks na sinuong pa rin ng Singapore? Baka may mapagpulutan po tayong mga leksyon doon para naman dito sa ating bansa.
Yes, Your Honor, I had the chance to participate in the seminar na hosted by the Transport Authority of Singapore. And I had the chance also to meet the Minister of Transport of Singapore, and he was telling me a story on how they really started to invest on the infrastructure. Before now, Singapore was just like any other third world country, no, na magulo, madumi. Yung transportation nila was really so bad, no? Parang yung mga tuktok nila, parang tricycle siguro natin at that time. And then they decided really to take the plunge or take the risk of investing heavily on infra development. And probably that's about 1970s or 80s. And he even said, sabi niya, actually, to tell you the truth, we didn't know that it was gonna work. No? And it was really a risk on our part. It was a gamble. But after 3 decades, I would say that I'm glad that we took that risk and we took that gamble. So ganun din, hindi po sila sigurado kung ito ay talagang magwo-work or talagang uubra, ika nga, no? So they took that risk and they are very happy that they took the risk.
Salamat po, Madam President. Huling tanong siguro para sa good gentleman from San Juan. Kanina, nabanggit ko na rin po kanina yung tanong dun sa status ng mga build China rails. Kanina po nung nag-interpellate si Senator Poe, umiiling talaga kami ng minority leader. Kaya kailangan kong itanong sa good gentleman from San Juan, ano ba yung logic na kung ang ino-offer sa ating bansa na interest rates ng Exim Bank na hindi na rin nakade-deliver ng specs na kailangan natin para sa Philippine railway system. Kung ang interest rates nila ay halos, ilan ba yon? 3,000% or 30,000%? 3% more than yung sisingilin ng halimbawa ng JICA. 3% kumpara sa 0.01%. So, bakit nga ba? Maulit lang yung, or maitanong yung isang point na ginagawa ni Sen Poe kanina, bakit natin pinipili yung mga pautang na mas mataas ang interest rate kesa mas mababa, kontrapelo sa gagawin natin sa tunay na buhay sa ating mga pamilya at tahanan. So, Madam President, would the good gentleman from San Juan like to hazard an explanation for this unexplainable situation?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, personally, I would prefer Japan to do the rest. No, for one, I think we are more confident with their railway system and technology, more reliable, and as far as safety is concerned. Second, Japan has been really helping the Philippines. No, talagang sila yung talagang tunay na kaibigan na makukonsider natin by giving us the friendliest rates. Na talagang yung rate na talagang gustong tumulong, hindi yung rate na gusto tayong pagkakitaan. Ang ano ko lang dito siguro, the past administration, I entered into this deal with China. Probably they wanted also to give China, parang hinati, no? Japan would do the North-South commuter line, the Metro Manila subway system, and China would do the South long haul and the Mindanao railway system. But I agree with you also. Probably it's a blessing, as what Senator Poe said, this is a blessing in disguise. Probably we can already renegotiate and have better terms, no, and friendlier terms, no, with JICA and ADB and Japan. So medyo mataas nga, no, and it's not only that, talagang lahat kukunin mo sa China, no, design, the equipment, the construction, lahat po ay sila rin po ang gagawa. So I would really prefer Japan to do the project, but according to the OTR, yung loan ceiling kasi ng Japan ay exhausted na, kaya baka hindi na nila, ang kaya lang gawin is the North-South commuter line and Metro Manila subway. Kaya po China po ang binigay yung South long haul and Mindanao railway system. Ang problema lang, as I mentioned earlier, of the 9 billion committed by China for ODA, only $600 million ang approved. So wala pang 10%, no, doon sa kanilang commitment na $9 billion for South long haul and the Mindanao railway system.
And therefore, good gentleman from San Juan, alin talaga yung exhausted? Yung loan ceiling ba ng Japan or yung actual capacity mag-deliver on the funds ng China Exim Bank? Anyway, Madam President, sigurado ko we will really try to get to the bottom of this sa pamumuno ni Sen Poe at ng vice chair ng komite. Because in the end, Madam President, good gentlemen, hindi naman ito tungkol sa isang creditor nation or ibang creditor nation na kailangang pagbigyan. This is really all about our commuters. As a last point and question, Madam President, kanina po na pag-uusapan with the good gentleman from San Juan na yung ganansya na nakuha ng isang bansang Singapore dun sa pangangahas nila na mamuhunan talaga sa infrastructure. Kahit hindi sa ganong national or macroeconomic level, on the micro level, meron din tayong best practices model sa Greece, kung saan yung mga pag-aaral doon ay nagpakita na yung household savings ay tumaas dahil sa mas efficient public transport. So bukod dun sa, kumbaga, sa mga economic hubs na ine-envision ng good gentleman from San Juan sa mga train station, bukod sa dagdag negosyo, food terminals, business districts, at iba pa, pati po yung savings ng microeconomies ng mga sambahayan, mga pamilya ay tataas. So as a last question in relation to that, Madam President, may mga computations na rin kaya na ginawa sa household income savings to Filipino consumers na maibubunga ng isang mas mahusay na public transport system, lalo na kasama ang mga tren?
Well, I think malaki ang yung mga lalo na sa travel time savings, no? I think yung quality of yung life, yan po yung ito yung priceless masasabi natin, no? For example, wag natapos po yung North-South commuter line, to give an example, yung pong old travel time from Clark, Manila, Calamba would take you 4 hours. The new travel time would only be 1 hour 45 minutes. So yung savings natin na travel time, mga 2 hours 45, no? So yung Metro Manila, hopefully matapos ito talaga agad, yung Metro Manila Subway Project, yung Valenzuela to Naiya Terminal 3 and Bicutan, old travel time will be 1 hour and a half. Against the new travel time will be 40 minutes. So ang travel time savings natin is almost 40 minutes din, no? So kalahati. So I think ito yung pinakamalaki, and this will be the biggest savings, no? And the biggest gain will be the quality of life, the quality of life, yung through the time that will be saved, no? Yung more quality time with the family, for yourself, kasi sa ngayon kasi yung problema natin ngayon, no, yung sa mga ordinary employers, no, employees, no, na for example taga Cavite ka, gigising kayo siguro ng mga alas 4, alas 5 para umabot ka rito sa Metro Manila na mga alas 8. Tapos pauwi, ganun din, no? O alis ka ng alas 5 sa Metro Manila, sa Makati, for example, makakarating ka 8 o'clock. So yung 2 oras sa papunta o 2 oras pa uwi, o mahigit pa, yun yung I think is priceless, really. That time that you could have spent with the family, na at least, siyempre, pag nawawala rin yung parents, malaking bagay na nandun for the guidance of the children as well. So I think it's really the quality of time, quality of life and time that we will really save a lot.
Salamat po, Madam President, at maraming salamat sa good gentleman from San Juan. Naglo-look forward po talaga ako sa pagdinig sa kanilang resolusyon. At
Thank you also, Senrisa, and the Minority Leader, for your interest, and I hope that we can work together here in realizing this dream, so that we will really be able to improve the quality of lives of our people through the transport.
We are grateful to the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Ontiveros, for her very helpful and insightful queries in our discussion today. And we recognize Senator Mark Villar, former Secretary of Public Works and Highways. We look forward to your interpellations, Senator Villar.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to make a manifestation and share some of my thoughts. First, I'd like to say that this representation supports the discussion on the future of the railway system in the Philippines, wherein we can realize the upgrading, rehabilitation, and extension of the existing railway networks. And I'd like to thank our esteemed colleague, Senator JV Ejercito, who's been a long-time proponent of especially the infrastructure, especially the railway system. Kasama ko po sa mga foreign trips si Senator JV, pati sa dinner magkasama kami. Kaya alam ko po na napaka-focused and dedicated siya sa larangan ng infrastruktura. So it is high time to discuss these concerns now, and as early as possible to ease the burdens of our daily commuters. Further, we should look into the plight of the commuters for us to know what needs to be improved, and in looking into commuter problems in our railways. This requires a whole of government approach. And I'd just like to add that under the Duterte administration, we've seen unprecedented strides in the push for a mass transit system in the country. Just to name a few, Senator JV was able to give a rundown of the projects, such as the LRT Line 2, which is already the LRT Line 2 East Extension, which I was also there when it was opened, the MRT Line 3 rehabilitation. We have the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange. Ongoing projects include the MRT 7, the North-South Commuter Rail, the LRT Cavite Extension Project, the Subic-Clark Railway, the PNR South Long Haul to Bicol, which I'm aware that we've opened a new section also. And aside from that, also we have 120 operational train cars in LRT 1, 32 operational train cars in LRT 2, 72 in MRT 3, and 50 in PNR. And we see these new train cars, especially in the PNR. They're completely brand new. For the first time, I've seen these brand new cars being used, and it was very inspiring for me. And at the same time, I'd also, to put things in perspective, a lot of these projects require a very high level or a large amount of planning. There's a lot of technical planning involved, and these take years. A feasibility study for a major project takes several years. The detailed engineering design takes several years to complete. So even if there's no construction yet, the work is continuing. And I think that, again, to put things in perspective, the Duterte administration has been very consistent and very aggressively pursuing these projects through the years. And I know this personally because I would be there in the high-level meetings with Japan and China. And also regarding the financing, there are different types of financing because of these loans. There's what we call untied loans and tied loans. In untied loans, it's open to any contractor. When you use, they're able to offer us interest rates at a lower level for, at a higher level for untied loans. Now you have tied loans where the interest rate is lower, but the government is limited to contractors who are from the country that's giving the loan. At the same time, you also have to take into account fluctuations in currency. That's another factor that the DOF is looking into. But I can say that the Duterte administration was dedicated to finding the best possible deal for the Philippine government, which is why we hear these negotiations from China, 3%, we're looking for 2%. So, of course, there were a lot of complexities in the negotiation, but the one consistent factor in all these negotiations is the Duterte administration was adamant that we should get the best possible rate. So, I mean, the discussion of interest rates is a very complex thing involving currencies, involving tied loans, whether we choose untied loans. So, I mean, there's a computation that I'm sure the DOF has extensively researched and looked into. So, I leave that to the experts on finance to comment. But I know I can speak from firsthand knowledge that these are very complex financial computations. And at the same time, I know that most of these projects the work that has been put into these projects and the pipeline that the Duterte administration has created is immense, it's numerous, and I'm very happy that the new administration is dedicated and he's been very firm in his statement. President Bongbong Marcos has been very firm in his statement that he will continue the Build program to build upon all the work that has been put in by the previous administration. So I'm very emboldened. I'm very happy about that. And it is my hope that through adequate government policies and good practices, we can improve and make our railway system to be like those in other countries. So let us continue to support infrastructure programs that seek to bring development, jobs, and new opportunities across the country. I support Senator JV Ejercito's call for the improvement of our railways in the Philippines. At the end of the day, the Build, Build, Build program was never about just building roads, bridges, and infrastructure. Its main goal was to make sure that a comfortable life for all is attained, and in order to achieve this, mass transportation must be one of our priorities. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Villar. And likewise, I'd like to commend you, for your job as DPWH then. And I agree that during the Duterte administration, from measly 2% spending in infrastructure, through the years, it became 5.6%. So talagang tumaas because of our program. So hopefully, it can even increase para matapos po natin lahat to. And I will take note of your observations. Hopefully, you can join us when we have the hearing already in the status of the railway system projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Last but not the least, Madam President, is the distinguished gentleman from Bicol, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I move that he be recognized.
We thank Senator Mark Villar and we recognize Senator Robin Hood Padilla from Bicol and the Philippines.
Maraming salamat po, magandang ginang Pangulo at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Bismillah. Gusto ko lamang pong sundan ang napakagandang talumpati at mungkahi ng ating mahal na senador mula sa San Juan, sapagkat alam niyo po, nung ako po ay nasa first year ng criminology, pinag-usapan po namin ang traffic. Yan po ay isa sa mga subject dyan na ang sinabi doon, kapag ang traffic natin ay masama, ang pag-unlad ng isang bansa ay masama din. Kaya nangangahulugan na kailangan nating ayusin ang traffic. At maaayos lamang yan kung may magandang transportasyon. At yung inyo pong mungkahi patungkol sa pagpapalakas ng ating mga tren, napakaganda po nito. Ito po ay isagot, lalo na sa, alam niyo po, ang ating bayan, geographically, tayo po, ang kailangan natin talaga ay tren. Sa totoo lang po, dyan po sa Bicol, tren ang inaasahan namin. Ngayon lang po, gusto ko lamang pong imungkahi sa ating mahal na senador sa San Juan. Meron pong isang nauuso din ngayon na kung tawagin po nila ay ropeway. Ito po yung paggamit ng cable. Nais ko din po sana na maimungkahi po sa inyo na ito po ay bagay din sa Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa Metro Manila dahil sa traffic. Ito po yung mga cable car. Opo. Yun lamang po, gusto ko lamang pong mabanggit yon dahil napakahusay po ng inyong talumpati. Gusto ko pong makasama at maging bahagi ng inyong talumpati na ito. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyo. Mabuhay po. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat din sa ating
Majority
kasama.
Leader, gusto ko lang idagdag sa binanggit ng ating mahal na kapatid na si Honorable Senator Robin Padilla. Sa South America at Latin America, maraming bansa doon ay gumagamit ng cable car. Colombia, Peru, dahil sa dami na pong bahay na natayo, masyadong dense yung favelas, favelas, Colombia. Cable car na po, above the houses na po yung kanilang mass transport. Kaya I am very happy na binanggit po ni Senator Padilla po yan.
Salamat po, mahal na Pangulo.
Mr. President, at this juncture, our Senate President Pro Temp would like to make a manifestation, if not ask some questions. I move that our Senate President Pro Temp, Senator Lauren Legarda, be recognized.
Our distinguished Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Lauren Legarda, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to associate myself with the good gentleman from San Juan for bringing to our attention the need for an efficient and safe railway system for the Philippines. It's been long in coming and still not here. I will recall that in my first term in 1998, we were already discussing this, and I'm already on my fourth term, Mr. President. May I be educated by the good gentleman on simple basic questions, since I may advocate this, but I am not an expert on this, Mr. President. My first simple question is, how many kilometers of railways do we have in the whole country which are operational presently, and under which agency of government? Is it the PNR, or are there other agencies that are managing these railways? Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, how many are presently operating, Mr. President? If this was mentioned in the speech, I apologize. I may not remember the facts on the kilometers, Mr. President.
As of the present, we have 161 kilometers, no, operational.
161 kilometers.
PNR, that includes PNR, LRT1, LRT2, MRT. So those are the existing railway system.
Okay, thank you for that. We have 161 covered by the MRT, LRT, and PNR, which all fall under the DOTR. Is that correct, Mr. President?
Yes, that's correct.
The PNR is still under DOTR. And the three would have their own managers or presidents of those bureaus under DOTR, Mr.
Yes, that is
President.
correct.
How would you consider the state of MRT, LRT, and PNR, Mr. President, if you were to rank them into first class, second class, third class, fourth, or if there's such a thing as fifth class? How would you consider the state in terms of function, cleanliness, safety, Mr. President?
Probably MRT, it's our main mass transit system. Although, Your Honor, in Europe, that's only a streetcar, no? It's not really as the heavy duty, but nonetheless, it gets a job done, and it's vastly improved when Sumitomo again became the maintenance provider. So at least it's ferrying about 400,000 passengers a day along EDSA. So probably I would say rank MRT probably 6 to 7 as compared to the other trains international standards, probably 5 to be realistic. LRT 1 and 2 are I think better. They're still operating up to now, no, yung the one in Taft, LRT 1 and LRT 2, which goes to the east, no, from Metro Manila going to the east in Rizal. Last but not the least, PNR. Would you believe, Your Honor, Mr. President, that the last time that PNR purchased new train sets was 40 years ago.
Oh.
So in 2019 or 18, we were together, Your Honor, Senate President Pro Tempore, during the 18th Congress, no, 17th Congress. When we were together, we allotted 3.5 billion for the purchase of 9 new train sets for PNR. So they are being used right now. It's made by Indonesia, brand new. It's clean. I was able to try it, no, from Valenzuela going to Makati in 37 minutes. So at least while we await for the modern railway system, the PNR new trains will do, no. We allotted 3.5 billion for the purchase of 9 new train sets. So yun po, after 40 years, it's the first time that Philippine National Railways was able to taste new trains due to our intervention, Your Honor.
Thank you very much for so competently answering my very basic questions. If there are only 161 kilometers of trains operating, I would assume because it's MRT, LRT, and PNR are only within Metro Manila or in Luzon, that there would be no trains in the regions of the Visayas and Mindanao. Is that correct, Mr. President?
Yes, as of the moment, there are no running railway system in other islands, Your Honor.
May I know, under your proposal earlier in your privileged speech, how many more kilometers are envisioned or planned if we are the partners of government? And what regions of the country would benefit from this, Mr. President?
We're targeting 1,200 kilometers, so that would include the North-South commuter line, no, that's under construction, Metro Manila subway system. Likewise, the South long haul that will go to Bicol, and the Mindanao Railway System. No? So that's 1,200 kilometers of new railway system that we are trying to push.
Well, that would be great. If we are to invest in that, Mr. President, how much would be the initial, this will be, of course, a multi-year project, how much would the initial year cost in terms of providing the new trains and the upgrading of the existing trains in the first GAA year, Mr. President?
I would be reading the cost of each. No? For example, in the North-South commuter line, ito po yung medyo mahal. No? Breakdown will be from yung Tutuban to Malolos will be 149 billion. Tutuban to Malolos. Then Malolos to Clark will be about 283 billion. And Solis to Calamba, 344 billion. No? So this will be multi-year, probably 5 to 10 years, no, in total. And the others, yung PNR South Long Haul, the one that will go to Bicol, project cost is about 175.32 billion. So, for example, in the 2018 GAA, we allotted 3.2 billion, no, for the PNR South Long Haul. For Mindanao Railway System, Project Phase 1, project cost is 81.7 billion, the one that would stretch from Tagum, Davao, Digos, 100 kilometers. And for 2018 GAA, we allotted 5.782 billion, but in 2019, what was allotted was only 2.9 billion. For North-South commuter line, I would like to go back. What was allotted was about 13 billion, no, for the Tutuban Malolos and 1.4 billion for the Solis to Los Baños.
Mr. President, thank you for that. The figures that you mentioned are the total figures needed for the whole project or the annual allocation for the multi-year project, Mr. President?
Your Honor, this is for the whole project.
The whole project.
Yes.
So if we are to allocate per year, it would not be that much. If you put that all together under one, how much would that cost, Mr. President? You mentioned some 200 billion, 89 billion. How much would the total cost be?
You mean the whole
The whole railway
whole
project,
railway.
if we are to solely fund it from GAA?
For the total project cost, if I may read it, no, for example, Metro Manila Subway Project,
Just an estimate po. Just a sum.
the sum of all for
Maybe
may
just an
na ako sa
estimate?
math siguro si
Maybe you can just
si
say it, then we can.
Senator Coco
yeah.
dapat
Just an estimate. Would it come up to 500 billion, Mr. President? Maybe not. More than 1 trillion, more than 1/5 of our GAA. But this is already for the multi-year project, and we can allocate it on phases.
for the total, I think it would estimate come out to around 2 trillion.
2
Almost,
trillion.
almost.
Okay, 2 trillion pesos, but not in one blow. In a span of, what, 5 years, perhaps? And
Yes, ma'am.
it does not have to come from GAA, because it can always be private sector. It could be PPP, it could be a foreign grant, it could be concessional loans, and many others. Okay,
I think, Your Honor, it will take about 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10
Spread it.
years. So we should always start somewhere, because as I said, we have been speaking about this since the 1990s, perhaps even before I came into this chamber, and we're still talking about it now.
After
So
your fourth term, we're still we're still talking about
yeah,
it.
and I thank the gentleman, Mr. President, for bringing it to our urgent attention, and we would support any intervention. And I hope that the present head of the DOTR department would seriously look into this, and a time for talk is over. The time for urgent action, for efficient mass transport, for sustainable transport is urgent and needed. With that, I congratulate the good gentleman from San Juan and the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Just to add also, to put it in the proper perspective, though, in fairness to this last administration, they were the one who's acted the most, I think, in terms of railway projects. Malas lang dahil hindi pa ini-implement pa, hindi pa na-turn over. But I think it was the administration of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte who really spearheaded a lot of these ongoing projects that we see today. Thank you. Majority
Mr.
Leader.
President, I just realized the disadvantage of being the majority leader. You somehow limit yourself in asking questions, especially at this time. So I will no longer ask questions because we also have with us the gentleman from Bicol who will deliver a very important privileged speech. Let me just put on record, Mr. President, our support and would like to be associated with the distinguished gentleman from San Juan, Senator JV, and the rest of our colleagues in supporting the implementation and promotion of mass transportation. I'd like to thank him because he made mention of our initiatives during, if I'm not mistaken, 2018 when we tackled and reiterate the importance of coming up with the Telecommuting Act, which is more popularly known as work from home law. Just to put on record, Mr. President, we look at the Global Competitiveness Report and its efficiency of train services. Hindi maganda yung score natin, no? 2018, 2.4 out of 7. So we're 100 na rank over 140 countries. 2019, 2.4 out of 7 being best, 88 out of 141 countries. And I'm glad that the distinguished gentleman from San Juan rise on the floor, ask the support of our colleagues, because there's always room for improvement, and I think there's so much room to improve. Thus, investing, Mr. President, in the transport system that moves people, not cars, is the way to go. And so again, we thank our dear colleague, Senator JV Ejercito. He knows very well that I'm one of his biggest fans here in the Senate, and we're glad that he is back. Just to also put on record when he mentioned about the importance of these projects, that it will create so many jobs. It would increase employment. In fact, Mr. President, NEDA made a statement and came up with estimates that government's infrastructure investments will translate to 2.5 million jobs this 2022. This includes 620,000 jobs that may be directly or indirectly created through the implementation of the government's flagship projects. So again, Mr. President, we congratulate our distinguished colleague, and at the proper time, this representation would also not just support but also participate in the deliberation of this privileged speech. Because, Mr. President, if you look at the data, out of the 54.441 billion budget of the Office of the Secretary ng DOTR, that's 42.46%, or 23.9119 billion is allotted for the railway transport program, Mr. President. However, Mr. President, based on the DBM statement of appropriations, allotments, obligations, disbursements, and balances, and we were talking about this with our distinguished minority floor leader, as of March 31, only 15.6% of the budget was disbursed. So we wanted to find out, and again, we are here to help in any way we can. We feel that this is very important, and that's why we support our dear colleague in calling for this very important initiative. Dahil Ginoong Pangulo, yung ibang bansa, nakakainggit, kayo po'y galing sa Singapore at nakita natin yung railway system ho nila doon at sa ibang karatig bansa natin, laging naiinggit na lang tayo at laging napapasabing sana all. So hopefully, Mr. President, and we are very confident that we'll be able to do something and address this very, very important issue. Thank you, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, I move that we refer the privileged speech of Deputy Majority Leader Senator JV Ejercito to the Committee on Public Services as the primary committee and SDG as a secondary committee, Mr. President.
Is there any objection to the motion of the majority floor leader? There being none, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.